Got to turn on my mic. All right. Well, folks, welcome to the Monday night live stream. Got a very important topic comprised of a lot of very important smaller topics, but the gist of it is using rolling fasts to reverse chronic illnesses, deep chronic illnesses, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, I talked about the top two diets, right, on a previous stream for reversing chronic illness. And then we also have to talk about the other side of that, which is the fasting. Um, and for a lot of people, the fasting or some form of fasting strategy is essential. Or it's like a necessity. Now, in very acute situations, the body forces us to fast in some way, shape, or form. An example of this would be having the flu or a fever. You lose your appetite. The reason why I call it acute is because um, it's a very short period of time. It's not this thing that drags on for weeks and months and years, right? So that's why I call it acute rather than chronic. So acute illness, right? It kind of forces you to fast. Chronic illness is a bit more insidious because it slowly seeps into your physiology and it embeds itself deeper and deeper and deeper over time and it becomes harder to get rid of. And by the time you feel the worst of the effects of it, it's a very severe situation, right? Um, and some of the main ones that we think about when it comes to something like this is something like a major gut health issue, like a really bad leaky gut issue, maybe like Crohn's or colitis, or fatty liver, or liver cirrhosis, or chronic kidney disease, right? Whether it be stage two, three, four, this kind of thing, right? Three and four, obviously, is going to be the worst. Or even cancer, right? You can have cancer that has taken such a hold of your body to the point where you lose your appetite, and even if you tried to eat, you get nauseous and you can't really hold anything down, right? So it can be an issue like that as well. So definitely talking about the fasting, it's not exactly for everyone, but some people it is for them, right? Um, Now I'm going to talk about some of the things here, the do's and the don'ts, how you know that it's for you when you know it's not for you, how to go about it, what are some of the hurdles when dealing with a long-term fast, how often should you do this kind of thing, right? Things of that nature, right? So I'm going to be basically covering all that here. But before I do that, folks, chime in. Where you tuning in from? How you feeling? Folks in the chat. Put a one in the chat if you hear me clearly. Good evening, folks. What is best for diverticulitis? Yeah, see, I'm gonna get into that. What's going on, Nene? How you doing? Good to see you in here. So I'm gonna get into what it's for, right? I mean, essentially, the short answer for something like diverticulitis, right? I would say foods that are particularly very easy on the gut, and then number two, I would say, um, some form of periodic fasting, and that can be implemented over various timelines, right? 24 hours, 36, 48, 72, things like this, right? So it really depends. And in large part, the strategy that you choose is going to be heavily correlated to what you've been doing, right? Because obviously, if we're trying to create a change, that implies that we have to do something that is, you know, fairly significantly different than what we've been doing, right? So that kind of thing. Um, so I'm kind of going to go over like a day's eating and things like that, and some of the hurdles that you got to look out for when it comes to a long-term fast. A line, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Miss T, let's see, what is leaky gut? How does it become all those other illnesses? Leaky gut essentially, it implies issues in the digestive tract, right? Perforations, damage to your gut lining, your intestinal lining, actual, things getting stuck inside of, damaged areas and holes and tears and things like that inside your gut lining, and, literal leakiness, as in, you have things that are going through your intestines and leaking into your bloodstream, right? Which can cause some really severe issues, right? So that can also be a case there as well. And leaky gut is like an umbrella term for all kinds of gut health issues, right? So people just call it like leaky gut for short, or leaky gut syndrome, right? So I'm gonna try to be concise and sweet with the time here. But before I begin, folks, I just want to say that I would appreciate it if you hit the like button, right? The YouTube algorithm likes that kind of thing, right? So you hear your favorite YouTubers, they say things like, gently tap the like button, share and subscribe, or they say drop kick the like button, something like that. Hit the bell icon and all these other descriptions and directions that they tell you, right? Share, like, subscribe, hit the like button to get notifications, all this type of stuff. I'll just make it simple and say just hit the like button, right? um this is a lengthy topic because there's a lot of areas to cover with it, but I'm going to try to be as concise and to the point as I can be here. So I'm going to start with the benefits of water fasting, right? And some of these you may not know, some of these you may know. So water fasting basically is a way of letting your body heal itself in the most natural way possible, right? The human body is very good at healing itself. You just have to allow your body to heal itself, right? That's really the main thing there. One of the biggest reasons why we struggle to recover from certain illnesses, um, is we don't allow it. We're kind of unintentionally obstructing our recovery process. And when it comes to fasting, your body has all of these hormonal responses and things that it does in order to switch gears, right? Your body starts really tapping into fat cells and using them for energy in the form of glucose. Your body starts releasing more growth hormone and things like that, right? Your adrenal function starts to restabilize and balance and improve on its own, right? Your pancreas then heals, right? Your kidneys then become uninflamed, right? Because your kidneys are taking a break from processing all of the different metabolites that are a result of digestion and energy expenditure and things like that, right? Your liver gets decongested. The mitochondria in your in your cells, excuse me, the mitochondria, which are the energy producing factories of your cells, right? So you get mitochondria all around in your cells. And they literally change shape, right? Mitochondria, they will change shape. They will become longer. They become more durable. And this is to protect against something called autophagy. Autophagy basically means self-eating. I think it means that in Greek or something like that, right? It's either in Greek or Latin, one of those. Some people say autophagy, autophagy, whatever the case is. And basically, during this autophagy process, your body will break down old, dead, and damaged cells and repurpose them or completely get rid of them and then put new cells in their place, right? So it's a cleansing thing that happens. And the cleansing is important for the healing, right? It's like what we would refer to as spring cleaning, so to speak, right? So cleaning things out, because a lot of our chronic illnesses are a result of congestion. And we get all kinds of issues as a result of that congestion. Primarily metabolites, reactive oxygen species, right? These kind of things, free radicals, all these fancy scientific terms that they're referred to as. Um, and so this significantly brings down the inflammatory levels in the body, or the oxidative stress levels in the body, which of course then brings down the inflammation. And this is where the recovery can really begin. So that's the deal with fasting. Now, in my opinion, the safest form of fasting is water fasting. I'm not a big fan of something like a dry fasting because of the dehydrating aspects of that, right? And so, if you have high blood pressure and you're diabetic, one of the worst things that you can do is be dehydrated, right? So dry fasting, not really a I'm not really a huge fan of that. Water fasting is more uh, in my zone. Right? Maybe somebody who's an expert on dry fasting can educate me on that and show me why I may be wrong about that, but that's for another time. So there's different types of water fasting. You have intermittent fasting, you have alternate day fasting, then you have like master cleanses, 3-day fast, 7-day fast. You can fast for 14, 20, 40 days and all types of things like this, right? The intermittent fasting is kind of a thing that we do every day, even involuntarily. So, for example, if you start eating at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you're done eating at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, from 6 o'clock to the next day, when you start eating again, like at 6, this is a form of fasting, right? Fasting as in going without food, without eating. So that we do that, you can either structure a schedule where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have an 8-hour eating window or a 6-hour eating window or a 4-hour eating window on a daily basis, and that's intermittent fasting, right? You either do this voluntarily or involuntarily, or intentionally or unintentionally, but either way, we do it to various degrees. Then you have alternate day fasting. Alternate day fasting is basically where you eat every other day, right? Or you implement a long fast every other day. So, for example, let's say you have a full day of eating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and then you have a 24-hour fast on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, right? Or you can do a 36-hour fast on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and that's alternate day fasting. So I'm a very big fan of, right? This works very well for things like weight loss and stuff like that, right? I've had very good results with people for that. And the reason why it's so effective is because a full digestive process on average is 36 hours. So it takes your body 36 hours to be able to digest and metabolize all the foods that you've consumed in a day, right? So pretty much alternate day fasting is a way of proactively preventing congestion, cellular congestion, which leads to metabolic issues, right? Which, by the way, 1 in 3 Americans have a metabolic disorder. So if you're sitting in a room with 3 people, chances are one of them has a metabolic disorder, right? At least that's how that statistic checks out. Aside from alternate day fasting, then you have rolling fasts. This is an entirely different animal. In a rolling fast is essentially where you fast for multiple days followed by a day or multiple days of eating. So rolling fast, let's say you eat on Monday and then you fast Tuesday and Wednesday and then you eat again on Thursday. And then you fast Friday and Saturday and then you eat on Sunday. And then you eat on Monday and then you repeat the following week. That would be an example. So if you fast for 2 days, right, this is going to be like a 48-hour fast. If you fast for 3 days, it's going to be around like a 72-hour fast, right? So this is very good because you get to be in that autophagy for a longer period of time. Now, one thing I'm a big fan of when it comes to the rolling fast, right? Because there's different levels of doing it. Now, obviously, if you eat for 1 day and then you fast for 2 or 3 days, it's pretty intense. And you got to be really, really disciplined about your nutrition on the day that you eat. You got to get it right on that day. Because that is going to carry you over for the next couple days or few days before you eat again. If you're new to implementing a strategy like this, you may want to you eat Monday and Tuesday, and then you fast Wednesday and Thursday, and then you eat Friday, Saturday, and then you fast Sunday and Monday, right? So every other day. So 48 hours of eating, 2 days of eating, 2 days fasting, 2 days eating, 2 days fasting. 2 days on, 2 days off, right? So this is like the alternate day fasting principle, but just stretched out. right? But you're still keeping your fasting at a 1-to-1 ratio, right? Now, this is a strategy specifically for reversing chronic illness, which kind of works better than alternate day fasting. Because alternate day fasting, you can do a 26 or 36-hour fast. It's very good for weight loss, right? And it's a very good way of building muscle mass and losing weight at the same time. But if you want to like reverse really big chronic illnesses, you've got all types of stuff. Let's say you got fibromyalgia, you've got degenerative bone disease, you've got cancer, kidney disease, you've got fatty liver disease, Hashimoto's, things of this nature. You may have to go through autophagy for a much longer period of time. You may have to go through longer periods of fasting, right? And so those longer periods of fast, the deeper into a fast you get, the more healing it becomes over time. So you start, a good way of starting is 2 days on, 2 days off. And you do that for, let's say, about 4 to 8 weeks or so. And you get used to it. And you can open it up. 2 days eating, 3-day fast. 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 3 days. Right? And then you can do it that way. And you can do that for a full 12 to 24 weeks, let's say. You can do that. Not only is this very good for weight loss, but specifically, this is very good for the rejuvenation of your kidneys, your liver, your pancreas, your adrenal glands, your digestive tract, your gut health, etc. It's really good for all these things. Healing straight across the board. Right? Now, of course, your dietary strategy has to be on point when you do this because you don't want to have all kind of mineral and vitamin gaps. Right? Because depending on how your metabolism works, you can lose a lot more lean mass than you would like, right? So you want to keep your lean mass. That's why it's good to have breaks from the fast and then refeed. So you get the best of having a solid diet, and then you get the best of having a fast and getting deep into it, right? So fasting can be very difficult. It's very difficult. For some people, it's really easy to do, and for some people, it can be an absolutely miserable experience. Now, if you have a poor fat metabolism, one thing that may happen is it takes your body a long time to switch into fat burn mode. And so when there's a hitch in that process, your blood sugar drops really low, or at least you're vulnerable to it, where your blood sugar could drop like below 70, right? And you hit like hypoglycemia. That's a sign that your fat metabolism does not work very well at all, right? And it's people like that where their glucose metabolism is very poor, but their fat metabolism is very good. You have some people where their fat metabolism is very poor and their glucose metabolism is very good. So it's different for some people. I've had people, they do a rolling fast strategy, phenomenal results. They do a fast. They're like, I have so much energy. I feel great. I can do this. I can live my life like this. This is wonderful. 3 days is easy, easy fast, right? And they do it with no problem. And then I've had some people, they do it, and after like 22 or 24 hours, they get the low blood sugar feeling, they're a little lightheaded, etc. Right? This is a sign you have a poor fat metabolism. Now, if this is the case for you, where you're lightheaded, you know, that type of stuff, maybe you feel a little nauseous, your blood sugar's really low, that kind of thing. This is where it becomes really important to stay hydrated and engage in certain herbal remedies, right? So herbal tea is keeping your body mineralized. And the reason why that is so important to keep your body mineralized is because as a matter of fact, let me take a quick break here and send this link. Because they're going to need to hear this. All right. So, things like matcha tea, moringa tea, ginger tea, cinnamon tea, getting a pinch of cayenne pepper in your matcha tea or your moringa tea, right? Your turmeric tea, chai tea, hibiscus tea, right? These types of things. Mineralizing your body. The beautiful thing about the herbal teas on the fasting days and drinking the lime juice and stuff on the fasting days is mineralizing your body gives your body the substrate to be able to regulate its own processes. So you're able to get into fat burn mode a lot quicker. Now, a fasting strategy will the beginning is the roughest part. The more you do it, the easier it gets, but the beginning is like the most difficult part. Like the first 24 hours is like the most difficult part. But then as your fat metabolism improves, right, that's when it becomes more easy to do. Right? So the beginning is always going to be the hardest. But you got to see it through, right? Got to tough it out. You'll be all right. But mineralizing your body, first of all, herbs and spices are the most antioxidant rich thing you can consume. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. Pound for pound, most antioxidant rich. And those antioxidant compounds found in herbs and spices that you use in your teas, this is going to protect your healthy cells. This is going to help protect your mitochondria, right? So you want fat oxidation. You want the breaking up of cysts and tumors. You want your immune system to start shrinking cancer and all of this type of stuff. But you also want to preserve your healthy cells, right? The cells that make up your lean muscle tissue, that make up your ligaments and tendons and bone tissue, right? The tissue that makes up your veins and arteries and all of this type of stuff, right? You want these antioxidants to maintain your hair so your hair ain't falling out of your head and you're shedding all over the place, right? Losing your eyebrows and all types of stuff like this. So mineralizing your body and getting those antioxidants in, right? So squeeze key lime in the water, right? What else? Liquid chlorophyll and your herbal teas, like a few that I mentioned before. And these things all work together to get you through the fast and give you the energy that you need. Right? You've got other herbal remedies, right? You've got things like bladderwrack, burdock root, right? The roots are important, right? Those root vegetables, right? Those herbs, oregano, parsley, basil, right? Coriander, fennel, peppermint. Peppermint, by the way, is very good if you experience gas, bloating, constipation. Peppermint, very good for that, right? Eucalyptus, very good for that. My go-to is either spearmint or peppermint, right? Grapefruit oil. That's another one. Grapefruit oil is phenomenal. And I would get essential oils, and I would put them in my water. I would just put a few drops in my water. Put some peppermint oil in my water and drink that throughout the day, right? And as a matter of fact, when I got down to when I went from 16% body fat to 6% body fat, one of the things that I got into the habit of drinking was water and peppermint oil. Right? Green tea all morning. I was drinking like 24 ounces of green tea. And then I was drinking like, 32 ounces of water with peppermint, a few drops of peppermint oil in it. And these things make your fast so much more bearable. Now, the next thing I want to get into is talking about, well, how do you know this is for you? Because you could jump the gun. This could be a thing that you may not even necessarily need to do. So how do you know it's for you? This is a thing that you go to when nothing else is working. Like eating on a daily basis is like cumbersome. Right? When you feel like you can't eat, like food is just giving you problems all the time. And this is like leaky gut people, or people have a lot of gut health issues. Right? Now, if you've got a lot of gut health issues, this way it could be a good idea to have like a raw diet, right? So some of my go-tos are things like coconut yogurt, right? With whole hemp seeds, and you got blueberries, strawberries, goji berries, raspberries, right? Bananas for the most part. Some people they don't react very well to bananas. It's kind of rare, but you know, if you got issues with bananas, avoid the bananas. Kiwis, mangoes, watermelon. I don't really know anybody who has issues with watermelon. Or it's probably like one in every 1,000 people maybe that have issues with watermelon. That may be too much. Watermelon is one of the safest foods you can eat, even as a diabetic. Cantaloupe, mangoes, honeydew, right? These tropical fruits like this, right? Um, Sweet potato, very good on the gut, right? Really just yams in general, Japanese yam, these type of things. Very good on your gut. Grapes, right? Citrus fruits like tangerines. Some people, they can't have too much citrus, right? So you may need to just do like a grapefruit, just one, and you're good, or maybe several tangerines, and that's that. Um, Golden kiwis are probably easier than green kiwis, right? So, like, let's say if you were going to eat 4 or 6 kiwis, you might want to do 3 green and 3 golden, something like that. You can split them up. Good options there. Cranberries, very good if you've got kidney issues, right? Cherries, cranberries, right? Blueberries, pretty much berries and cherries. Very good if you got kidney disease. Grapes, very good if you get kidney disease. Watermelon, very good if you get kidney disease, right? So essentially, you're going to be having a pretty raw diet, right? And then there's avocado. You could just be hammering the fruits throughout the day. You have your avocados, things like this. And then you can have lentils, like a lentil soup at the end of the day. So if you're worried about like getting enough protein and things like that, you do a lentil soup with a cup of lentils or something like that in there, or a cup and a half, or whatever the case is, or a split pea soup with some mushrooms, um, some garlic, things like that. That garlic, the onions, right, peppers, things like that inside the soup, the stew. It's gonna be very good on your gut, right? So you're fruiting it throughout the day, and then you're hitting your stew or your soup towards the end of the day, and that takes you into your fast. Somebody asked me about diverticulitis. Some of the food that I just mentioned, those are easy on diverticulitis. Strawberries you may have a bit of an issue with, right? But everything else it should be fine. With diverticulitis, you may want to stay away from greens, and you may want to stay away from raw leafy greens. That may be too abrasive. But everything else that I just mentioned, that should be fine if you've got diverticulitis, right? So all the fruits that I mentioned, the yams, the sweet potato, uh, the lentils, the split peas, that kind of thing. Some people get issues with split peas, but the lentils usually is more of a sure shot. So this is a good option for you if nothing else has been working. I've had people where they have all kind of food allergies. They eat anything and they start breaking out and scratching and things like that because they got histamine issues or whatever the case is. Um, if that's you, where you just have these perpetual problems with food, gas, bloating, constipation, itching, poor difficulty sleeping, breaking out in hives, rashes, whatever the case is, this would be a good strategy for you because you need to give your digestive tract a break, right? Um, if your blood sugar, if you're waking up and your blood sugar is like 210, 230, 240 first thing in the morning, like you're waking up with really high blood pressure, you even look at a grape and your blood sugar skyrocket, this is a good strategy for you, right? If you've got really severe kidney disease, this is a good strategy for you. Um, because with kidney disease, it's kind of like, look, the more food volume you take in, the more work your kidneys have to do to process the metabolites and waste products out, right? So if you have chronic kidney disease, protein is going to become an issue, right? Because the more protein you consume, the more acid byproducts come as a result of the amino acid and protein digestion and metabolism. That has to get filtered through your kidneys, right? Saturated fat, that becomes inflammatory over time because of all the lipids and the acidity, right? And your kidneys are responsible for maintaining the pH balance in your blood. And that becomes an issue, right? Especially if you're doing things like cooking with oil and things like that, the saturated fat that'll get you, especially when you're putting it under high temperatures, right? Trans fats, major issue here, right? So, with all the things that I mentioned, if this is you, if you've got low pancreatic function, let's say you took a C-peptide test, and you got your pancreas isn't working so well. Let's say if you got Hashimoto's disease and you got all kind of food allergies, you got hypothyroidism, and you're tired all the time, this may be a good idea for you. If you're struggling to lose weight, where like the weight's just not coming off, you're tired all the time, because the thing too is like with people who have like a really clean diet, where they're like, I've been eating raw vegan, I've been exercising, I haven't been able to lose any weight. Chances are your fat metabolism is shot. It is shot. You can eat all the carbs, blood sugar perfectly fine, but your fat metabolism is shot. So you go for any length of time without any kind of food, and your blood sugar starts plummeting, and all you do is you just get tired and your body never switches gears. This may be a good strategy for you. And you may identify with that, where you go, I have a really big appetite. I can eat a lot of food at a time. Doesn't bother my gut. I'm raw vegan. Most of my diet's fruit. I can eat like, 10 cups of watermelon, 8 mangoes, and 8 bananas, and I can just put it away. And I feel great when I do that. And my blood sugar's fine. But if I go for any length of time or without any food, my blood sugar just starts collapsing. And I don't feel well, and I don't sleep well. If that's you, that's a good indication, right? This may be a good strategy for you to do, right? The rolling fast. Because you really got to get into the driver's seat and manually turn on your fat metabolism. And the thing that would interfere with your body's ability to engage in fat metabolism is constantly eating every day. Because your body's used to getting the carbohydrates. Your body's used to getting the dietary glucose, so it never has to make that shift because it is not in a low blood sugar state for long enough to be able to develop a fat metabolism. Fat metabolism is like a skill that your body has. It's an ability. And if you don't use it and it shuts off, it's very difficult to get it to turn back on with food for some people. Now, from all the research that I've done, the primary reason why this would be the case is adrenal fatigue. If your adrenal glands are shot, it is going to be very difficult for you to lose weight because fat metabolism is largely governed by your adrenaline, right? So, and when people talk about the dawn effect, where they wake up in the morning and their blood sugar is elevated even though they haven't eaten anything. And that's because that is an effect of noradrenaline and cortisol, right? Your adrenal glands pump out these hormones that make your body dig into your fat stores and convert fat into glucose to use for energy. That's essentially how that works. If your adrenal glands are shot because you've been chronically under eating or you've been having very poor sleep quality for a very long period of time, you just don't get good sleep. And so what happens is your adrenal glands are shot, and you can even see this in your face. You may see swelling along your jawline, a puffiness in your face. You may be dealing with edema, things like that, swelling in the wrist and hands and feet, and this type of thing, right? So if that's the case, then it may be a good idea to start getting into a rolling fast strategy. All right. D, what's going on? Good to see you in here. That's right. Some things click for you, huh? Some of this resonated. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about here in this strategy, right? So just to recap, right, we got your timeline. You can either do 2 days eating, 2 days fasting, right? 2 days on, 2 days off. Um, you can do 2 days eating, 3 days fasting, and then you can do 1 day eating, 3 days fasting. Um, the maximum amount of time that I would do something like this, that I would advise to do something like this, is 12 to 16 weeks. 24 weeks at the most, that's like 6 months, kind of pushing it. All right. The longer you do a strategy like this, you can potentially run into issues like hair loss or brittle nails. It's possible, right? It's not a guarantee, but it's possible, right? So that's a warning there. That's why if you push it for too long, right? So 12, 16 weeks is fine. You go past that 12 to 16 weeks, you start getting into 18, 20, 24 weeks, you might start developing some issues, right? And it shows up in your hair, skin, and nails, right? So you want to keep something like, you want to keep that in mind. If you've been eating every day, however, and you're still having those issues, it may not even necessarily be because you're fasting is not a good option for you. You may be losing hair and having dry skin or itchy skin or brittle nails or something like that because you need to fast because you've got a metabolic disorder, you've got cellular congestion, right? But this is a very effective strategy, but you got to know when to take a break from it and come off. One thing you should know is that you can go through a strategy like this and you can lose a lot of weight very quickly. Just keep in mind that when you start eating again, you will gain back some of the weight. You're not going to gain all of it back. You shouldn't even really be gaining back like 25% of it. But let's say you did this strategy and you lost 50 pounds. And then you start eating again. And then within the first week, you gain back 5 of the pounds, maybe even 7. 10 is probably a bit too much. You're doing something wrong if you gain back 10. But let's say 5 or 7 pounds you gain back. That's fine, right? Because your glycogen stores refill, right? Glycogen meaning glucose that's stored inside your cells. Glucose that's stored inside your cells is referred to as glycogen, right? So your glycogen stores refill. So your body replenishes. It starts holding on to more water because fasting, you lose a lot of water, right? You're not getting the fiber, the carbohydrates, and all that type of stuff. So your body's not holding water as a result. So you're going to lose a lot of water weight. When you start eating again, your body's going to hold on to a few pounds more water and then the glycogen. Not to mention the weight of the actual food that you eat on a daily basis will show up on the scale. Because remember, it takes 36 hours to go through a full digestive process. And the food you eat, it has weight to it, right? So the water, the glycogen stores, and the weight of your food, that's going to add some weight back. Don't freak out. It doesn't mean, oh no, you're going back in the wrong direction. You gain back all the weight. It's not true. 50 pounds is a lot of weight, right? So if you lose 50 pounds and you gain back 7, that's fine. But you can refeed, all of that type of stuff. And you can refeed for about 1 month or maybe 2 months. Replenish your body and then go for a second round, right? If you've got like 100 plus pounds or something to lose, right? Then you can do that. This won't be easy because you've got social pressures, you've got scheduling pressures, you got to deal with hunger cravings, you got to deal with potential low blood sugar feelings, things like that. So it's not easy, but it's very effective. Right? So then you really just have to mentally prepare yourself. I'm going to engage in this journey. It's going to be difficult. Because when you're sitting there and you feeling empty and you feeling tired and you're used to eating, you have to tell yourself, I'm not eating, right? You have to tell yourself no, right? And you'd be looking at the watch and you look at the clock and you're like, all right, one more day to go, 12 more hours to go, 8 more hours to go, right? You can gamify it. There's apps that you can use, right? A tribe member of mine just told me about this app called Life, which apparently tracks your fasting schedule, right? So you can do things, you can gamify it like that and kind of run a challenge for yourself and do it that way also. I may even start like a fasting challenge inside the Discord. So I may do that. So y'all let me know how y'all feel about that if y'all want me to do that. Let's see. What if you're going into this rolling fast with hair loss and brittle nails? Well, you got to figure out what the cause of the hair loss and the brittle nails is, right? Um, because it could be a function of a metabolic issue, right? It could be an issue of adrenal fatigue, right? It could be an issue of that. It could be an issue of low vitamin D. It could be an issue of a lack of vitamin D, or I mean, a lack of B12 or iron, or copper, right? Things like that. It could be a lack of zinc. Could be. Or it could just be because you need to fast. And it also depends on how long you've been dealing with the hair loss and has it been getting better or has it been getting worse over time. So like, let's say you used to eat one way and now you're eating a different way, right? Have you noticed any changes between how you used to eat and then how you currently eat? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? And with that, right? So you got to get answers to that issue first in order to get the green light to jump into that new strategy, right? And I guess that's something that we can talk about a little bit further down the line on a call, right? So that is I think I pretty much touched on all of it there, right? We did it, folks. Did we do it? I think we did it. We got any other questions here? Natasha, what's going on? Good to see you in the stream here. When I fast 2 days and then I start eating again, the blood sugar goes up to 200 plus, when before I was around 100 to 150 eating. On fasting, it goes down to 60 or 7, and once I eat again. Oh, so he's getting like this little snapback adjustment thing going on, right? So basically your body can kind of overcorrect. He said, talk more about saying no to yourself. Oh yeah, it's probably going to be more of a mindset stream, right? Um, so yeah, basically, and that seems more like a hormonal issue, right? Like if you do a 2-day fast and then your body overcorrects, and then your blood sugar spikes, right? I know that can be, if you fasted for a prolonged period of time, your adrenal function probably kicks on, right, and goes into a bit of like a hyperdrive when you start eating again, right? Um, and you may want to even do, instead of a 2-day fast, you may want to do even like a 3-day fast, right? I've had people where the 48-hour fast was potentially too short and then did a 72-hour fast, and they had much better outcomes. But we waited for a little bit, right? Sometimes you just got to wait and be patient with the process and let your body adjust on its own, right? If you do something once or twice, or you do something for a week and you get a particular response, you may not want to break your pattern too quickly, right? Because your body will adjust over time. What you want to do is you would establish a trend. So it would make sense that if you're going for a long time without, consuming food, like 48 hours in a fast, you get deep into it. Um, your blood sugar levels will decline, and then your fat metabolism kicks in, stabilizes your blood sugar, right? I think earlier you told me too, you took a nap and then your blood sugar started to come back up after you took a nap. So that implies to me that it's a sleep quality issue, which your sleep quality does govern your hormones. Your sleep quality dictates your blood sugar. I've had people where that in and of itself was the missing piece. And this is like a common thing that I would see in people, right? where if they had poor sleep quality, they would wake up really high blood sugar. When they improved their sleep quality, they'd wake up and their blood sugar would be much lower. And this is like a thing that I've experienced with a lot of diabetics, who have like a glucose monitor and all this type of stuff. The better their sleep quality got, the better their blood sugar levels were, because your hormones level out. Because when you sleep, your adrenal function improves, right? And this process, this optimizing of your kidneys, liver, and adrenal glands happens, yeah, typically in your deepest sleep, right? And it happens in between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m., right? And you get all of this organ repair. A fast almost kind of acts as sleep. So you're awake, right? Because so when you're fasting and you're awake and you're subjected to all types of external stressors, it doesn't really work like how good sleep does. But it comes pretty close, right? Because it's like you're giving your digestive system and your gut a rest, so to speak. And then your organs are not having to, like your pancreas isn't having to kick out insulin and all of this type of stuff. Now, you may also need to adjust the way that you break your fast. So, for example, you may want to break your fast with a smaller meal, and then the next meal after that is a larger meal, right? Maybe if you break your fast with a high glycemic load or a large food portion, you may experience a massive climb in your blood sugar like that. Now, that doesn't explain the blood sugar crashes during a fast. That's kind of a different thing. During a fast, if your blood sugar is crashing during a fast, that implies a poor fat metabolism, which is actually very common among people who they're very overweight, their diet is solid, um, their glucose levels are good, but they're still struggling to lose weight. That implies that they don't have a glucose metabolism problem, they have a fat metabolism problem. And there are two different modes, right? This makes a fundamental difference between how your body uses fat or metabolizes fat and how your body metabolizes glucose. Right. Um, so it's a bit of a different thing. So breaking a fast, one thing you need to be aware of if breaking a fast, if your blood sugar, if, well, first of all, too, you got to think like on your fast, let's say you've been fasting for a full 48 hours and then you wake up first thing in the morning and before you eat anything, your blood sugar's high, right? That shows like that's an adrenal function. That's the dawn effect, what people call it. That's the adrenal function thing kicking up. This is the reason why people who are often very overweight can skip breakfast and be fine, right? Or not even people who are very overweight, even people who are even at a healthy weight sometimes, they can skip breakfast and be completely fine. They don't really have much of an appetite in the morning, right? Because the cortisol levels are up there in the morning, right? Um, and so that adrenal function really kicks up, and that's the thing that initially wakes you up in the morning and gives you that initial burst of energy. Now, if you wake up and your blood sugar is normal and then you eat and then it takes off, that's a glycemic load issue, right? That's that's like a too much too fast kind of thing, right? So you would just need to shrink that first meal, and then by the second meal you can eat as normal. Let's catch up with y'all here in the comments. Let's see. Yeah, I thought about doing maybe 3 to 5 days. I wondered if that would help regulate. I would say to stick with the 48 hours first and try to master that, right? Because if a 2 day fast is giving you hitches and your blood sugar's crashing, you may want to master that first. And then once you've got a lock on that, then you can expand things, right? But you'd need at least a week, right? To see what the issue is and do a little bit of troubleshooting. Let's see. Yeah, I had low blood sugar in the 60s and ate 4 mangoes later. That probably was too much carbs at once. Oh, so your body, when it comes time for your body, because when your blood sugar level is low like that, your body has to respond by switching into your fat metabolism. Because in the absence of food, the only thing that sustains your blood sugar is fat metabolism. right? And that's largely a function of your adrenal glands and your liver, right? And then there's other things involved, your pituitary gland, your thyroid, that kind of thing. And pituitary gland, thyroid, liver, right? Um, so there's like this chain of events that happens there. And then your adrenals are also involved in the process as well. All of these things happening collectively together to turn on your fat metabolism. Um, so yeah, I would say as far as the eating, what did you say? 4 mangoes. It was probably a too much too fast kind of thing. So I would say to ease in, right? And that's usually kind of what you want to do. Now it varies from person to person. I know, like for you, you can eat like 6 or 8 mangoes at a time, easy, normally, right? So you're used to having normal blood sugar. But of course, when you've been fasting for 48 hours, your body has to make adjustments, right? But as you get better with the fasting and your fat metabolism improves, that's when the fasting becomes a lot easier. What am I drinking? I'm drinking ginger tea. This is a gram of ginger powder in tea. I don't think the mangoes were too much. I think you need to allow your body to adjust to them. Start with less work on your way. Start with less work. Start with less and work your way up. Yeah, I mean, look, 4 mangoes. I mean, I can. 4 mangoes is pretty filling, right? That 4 mangoes could be like around 600 something. It can have like a caloric value of like 600 something. 4 mangoes could be a lot, especially if you're coming right out of a fast. But it's all relative to how much you normally eat, though. That's the thing. Let's see. And then I drink distilled water with a pinch of Celtic salt. Yeah, so that Celtic salt is good to mineralize your body right there. Yeah. Oh, she thought she was asking you. She probably was asking you. I don't know. Um. So yeah, that's pretty much a deal. Yeah, and I mean we can talk about the ins and outs of fasting and all of that type of stuff. I know my first 3 day fast was nearly debilitating, right? It really showed me that I wildly overestimated my metabolism. Now fasting is not really that difficult for me. I don't necessarily fast very often. I don't. I take pretty long breaks from it when I do it. I do it periodically, but I'll do like the alternate day fasting thing on and off. I'll do it like twice a year or something like that for 8 or 12 weeks or so. Or fast periodically, things like that. Like today, I did a 24-hour fast today, and then I broke my fast like around 6 o'clock, and I had like a meal that was like like it had a caloric value of like 1,300. It was lentils, super firm tofu, basmati rice, baby spinach, cashews. It was all type of stuff in there. I really loaded that bowl up. The food was stacked up higher than like the brim of the bowl, right? Um, but I'm a different case. Yeah, I'm a bit of a different. I'm used to eating large portions at a time, but I also don't really have any chronic illnesses, right? This is why, like, I don't advise people according to what works for me. I advise people for what works for their demographic group. Right? So, knowing if you have a good glucose metabolism or a good fat metabolism, these are very important things, right? People who are diabetic have a poor glucose metabolism. And then some people who are diabetic have a poor glucose and a poor fat metabolism. And this is a grind when both are poor, right? Um, and I guess this is kind of off topic, but my general recommendation for people, right, is you can have a very carbohydrate dominant diet, right? You can eat first meal is like 4 mangoes, second meal is like 6 bananas, third meal is like 8 ounces of coconut yogurt with, several cups of berries, maybe, some pumpkin seed kernels in there, or sunflower seed kernels, or hemp seeds. Next meal after that could be like 2 or 3 apples with 2 or 3 cups of grapes. And then the final meal could be like a pound of sweet potato, with, like 4 cups of broccoli, and like chickpeas or something like that, right? With lentil sauce. That's a lot of food, but it's a very carbohydrate dominant diet, and it really trains your body to get good with your glucose metabolism because it has to adapt. In the same way with fasting, that diet plan that I just described is like the opposite. In the same way where fasting improves your fat metabolism, that high carb diet improves your glucose metabolism, right? And according to all of the current scientific data, that shows it, and they call it the START solution or 80-10-10. If you Google it, 80-10-10 or START solution, you can see a lot of data on the methodology from that, right? 80% carbs, 10% fat, 10% protein. And this has been like a medicinal diet that is like doctors use. For example, Dr. Neil Bernard, right, is a real pioneer of this way of eating. You can look him up, Dr. Neil Bernard. And he's a big proponent of eating this way, this 80-10-10 strategy. And he uses this strategy for people with kidney disease, fatty liver disease, diabetes, trying to lose weight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, I mean, etc. Right? Cancer, he also uses for cancer, and I mean, just, phenomenal results, straight across the board. Now, if you have a poor fat metabolism, you may not lose much weight after doing this. This does usually yield weight loss, right? In most cases, this type of strategy causes weight loss for people who are overweight. But there are some people where a diet like this would work for improving their glucose metabolism, but not necessarily their fat metabolism. But if you really want to train your fat metabolism, that's when fasting is required. So to get the best of both worlds is where if you use an 80-10-10 strategy, but you modify it a little bit to add a tad bit more fats into the diet, and then you do a rolling fast, you get the best of both worlds if you do that. Right? So I'm more prone to something like that. That's more like a full spectrum approach. The 80-10-10 way of eating, that leans all the way into one direction, and then the fast leans all the way into another direction. But if you deploy both strategies and you switch back and forth in a macro way, or micro way, I should say, between the two, it's a full spectrum approach, right? That can kind of cover both ends, your glucose metabolism and your fat metabolism. Let's see. Did you have a poor glucose and not be diabetic? A poor glucose metabolism usually indicates that a person is diabetic. Right. So basically what happens is you're insulin resistant, and then when you become more insulin resistant, you become pre-diabetic, and then from pre-diabetes you become diabetic, like full-blown diabetic. Um, so if you were to ask me like, hey, can you have a poor glucose metabolism and not be diabetic? Technically, yes, right? Um, but you'd have to be on the road to being diabetic, right? But generally speaking, when it comes to improving your fat metabolism, the best thing that I've found that works the best with improving fat metabolism is fasting, specifically a rolling fasting strategy. And I would mostly deploy the rolling fasting strategy with people who have kidney disease or people who have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. Because these tend to be people who have a poor fat metabolism. Kidney disease, I mean, you just have a poor metabolism, period, because your body can't excrete waste products in the way that it needs to. Right? Kidney disease kind of forces you to fast to some degree, right? Because you have to take the workload off your kidneys. Could you answer my question about the documentary that I asked earlier? What documentary? Let me see. Let me scroll up here. What documentary? I'm not seeing you mention a documentary here. Can you answer my question about the documentary that I asked earlier? I don't know what documentary. I just scrolled up in the comments. I don't see anything about a documentary. Maybe try putting it back in the comments here. I'm not seeing it. Let's see. A-line. Activity levels on a 2 to 3 day rolling fast. Ooh, you know what's really good to do? So you could train on one of your eating days. So like, for example, if you do 2 eating days back to back, you would train on your first eating day. And then you would, well, first of all, when I say train, I mean like resistance training, like actively trying to build strength and muscle. Some type of rigorous exercise. That should be done on eating day number 1. So let's say you eat, train, then you eat, don't train, then you fast, 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 and then you eat, train, and then eat, don't train, that kind of way, right? So you're probably going to be training like once or twice a week with the resistance training, right? It'll work out to around once a week. So like, let's say if you eat Monday, Tuesday, you train that Monday, and then you fast Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you train Saturday, right? And then you eat Sunday, and then repeat the next week, right? So it could be something like that. All right, did we get all the comments? Let's see, Nene, if you want to put that documentary back in here. Also, for those of you who are not tribe members in the stream, because you know we got this public for all, right? If you want to become a member, you want to sign up for coaching or a consultation, I'll have links to those things in the description. So you'll be able to sign up for whatever you want to do, whether it be get your own personalized plan, become a member, or book a call, right? So any of those options there are definitely on the table. All right. Big shout out to all the tribe members in the stream. Keep it up. I'm proud of y'all. Y'all killing the game. Big shout out to you, Tracy. Doing the thing. So I'm excited to see your new progress here. D. Don Ann killing it as usual. We taking it. We stepping our game up. Right. We getting off the next 50 pounds. We're getting that done. So bless up to you and your progress so far. Got my lady here. Forever faithful unto him. My happy health, and y'all probably know her as in the Discord. So definitely give her a big shout out. She's been a major source of inspiration for me personally. And having said that, I'm gonna sign out here. And then Natasha, I'm gonna go ahead and hit you up once I get off here, and then we can jump on for a quick call. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will catch y'all on the next stream.